Namaste. In the divine atmosphere of Savitri Bhavan, we begin our invocation and study session of our global spirituality Mahotsav. The theme of the Mahotsav is realizing 5 dreams of Sri Aurobindo for new humanity. So we invoke the Mother's presence, and now in her presence, we shall read and study Sri Aurobindo's 15th August message, in which he he spoke about his 5 dreams. I request Dr. Jayanti Ravi Madam, Secretary, to please start with the first paragraph.
As Vibha said, this was written on 15th August, but we tried very hard at the beginning of the celebration to get a copy of the recording in the voice of Sri Aurobindo. We were going to understand by the ashram that there is absolutely no voice recording of Sri Aurobindo, the Lord, available. So this was broadcast on All India Radio Tiruchirappalli on the eve of India's independence. I'll read the first paragraph as Buddha said. August 15th, 1947 is the birthday of free India. It marks for her the end of an old era, the beginning of a new age. But we can also make it by our life and acts as a free nation, an important date in a new age opening for the whole world, for the political, social, cultural and spiritual future of humanity.
August 15th is my own birthday, and it is naturally gratifying to me that it should have assumed this vast significance. It takes this coincidence not as a fortuitous accident, but as the sanction and seal of the divine force that guides my steps on the work with which I began life. The beginning of his full fruition, indeed. On this day, I can watch almost all the world movements which I hope to see fulfilled in my lifetime, though then they look like impracticable dreams, arriving at fruition or on their way to achievement. In all these movements, free India may well play a large part and take a leading position.
The first of these dreams was a revolutionary movement which would create a free and united India. India today is free, but she has not achieved unity. At one moment, it almost seemed as if, in the very act of liberation, she would fall back into the chaos of separate states which preceded the British conquest. But unfortunately, it now seems probable that this danger will be averted and a large and powerful, though not yet a complete union, will be established. Also, the wisely drastic policy of the Constituent Assembly has made it probable that the problem of the depressed classes will be solved without schism or fissure. But The old communal division into Hindus and Muslims seems now to have hardened into permanent political division of the country. It is to be hoped that this settled fact will not be accepted as settled forever as anything more than a temporary expedient, for if it lasts, India may be seriously weakened, even crippled. Civil strife may remain always possible even a new invasion and foreign conquest. India's internal development and prosperity may be impeded, her position among the nations weakened, her destiny impaired or even frustrated. This must not be. The partition must go. Let us hope that that may come about naturally by an increasing recognition of the necessity not only of peace and concord, but of common action, by the practice of common action and the creation of means for that purpose. In this way, unity may finally come about under whatever form. The exact form may have a pragmatic but not a fundamental importance. But by whatever means, in whatever way, the division must go. Unity must and will be achieved, for it is necessary for the greatness of India's future.
Another dream was for the resurgence and liberation of the peoples of Asia and her return to her great role in the progress of human civilization. Asia has arisen. Large parts are now quite free or are at this moment being liberated. Its other still subject or partly subject parts are moving through whatever struggles towards freedom. Only a little has to be done, and that will be done today or tomorrow. There, India has her part to play and has begun to play it with an energy and ability which already indicate the measure of her possibilities and the place she can take in the Council of the Nations.
The third dream was a world union forming the outer basis of a fairer, brighter, and nobler life for all mankind. That unification of the human world is under way. There is an imperfect imitation, organized.
Initiation.
Yes, but this. I think I passed it.
Yes.
But struggling against tremendous difficulties. But the momentum is there, and it must inevitably increase and conquer. Here too, India has begun to play a prominent part, and if she can develop that larger statesmanship, which is not limited by the present facts and immediate possibilities, but looks into the future and brings it nearer, her presence may make all the difference between a slow and timid and a bold and swift development. A catastrophe may intervene and interrupt or destroy what is being done. But even then the final result is sure. For unification is a necessity of nature, an inevitable movement. Its necessity for the nations is also clear. For without it, the freedom of the small nations may be at any moment in peril, and the life, even of the large and powerful nations, insecure. The unification is therefore to the interests of all, and only human imbecility and stupid selfishness can prevent it. But those cannot stand forever, against the necessity of nature and the divine will. But an outward basis is not enough. There must grow up an international spirit and outlook. International forms and institutions must appear. Perhaps such developments as dual or multilateral citizenship will interchange or voluntary fusion of cultures. Nationalism will have fulfilled itself and lost its militancy and will no longer find these things incompatible with self-preservation and the integrality of its outlook. A new spirit of oneness will take hold of the human race.
Another dream, the spiritual gift of India to the world has already begun. India's spirituality is entering Europe and America in ever increasing measure. That movement will grow. Amid the disasters of the time, more and more eyes are running towards her with hope that there will be an increasing resolve not only to our teachings but also to our scientific and spiritual practice.
The final dream was a step in evolution which would raise man to a higher and larger consciousness and begin the solution to problems which have perplexed and vexed him since he first began to think and to dream of individual perfection and a perfect society. This is still a personal hope and an ideal which has begun to take hold both in India and in the West on forward-looking minds. The difficulties in the way are more formidable than in any other field of endeavor, but difficulties are made to be overcome, and if the Supreme believes that, they will be overcome. Here too, if this evolution is to take place, since it must proceed through a growth of the spirit and the inner consciousness, the initiative can come from India, and although the scope must be universal, the central movement may be hers.
Such is the content which I put into this day of India's liberation. Whether or how far this hope will be justified depends upon the new and free India. The future of India is very clear. India is the guru of the world. The future structure of the world depends on India. India is the living soul. India is incarnating the spiritual knowledge in the world. The government of India ought to recognize the significance of India in this sphere and plan their action accordingly.
Mother India is not a piece of earth. She is a power, a godhead. For all nations have such a Devi, supporting their separate existence and keeping it in being. Such beings are as real and more permanently real than the men they influence, but they belong to a higher plane, are part of the cosmic consciousness, and being an act here on earth by shaping the human consciousness on which they exercise their influence. It is natural for man, who sees only his own consciousness individual, national or racial at work, and does not see what works upon it and shapes it. To think that all is created by him and there is nothing cosmic and greater behind him.
Spirituality is indeed the masterkey of the Indian mind. She sense of the infinite is native to it. India saw from the beginning, and even in her ages of reason and her age of increasing ignorance, she never lost hold of the insight that life cannot be rightly seen in the soul light, cannot be perfectly lived in the soul power of its externalities. She was alive to the greatness of the material laws and forces. She had a keen eye for the importance of the physical sciences. She knew how to organize the arts of ordinary life. But she saw that the physical does not get its full sense until it stands in right relation to the supra-physical. She saw that the complexity of the universe could not be explained in the present terms. Of man are seen by his superficial sight, that there were other powers behind, other powers within man himself, of which he is normally unaware, that he is conscious only of a small part of himself, that the invisible always surrounds the visible, the suprasensible, the sensible, even as infinity always surrounds the infinite light. She saw, too, that man has the power of exceeding himself, of becoming himself more entirely and profoundly than he is. Truths which have only recently begun to seem in Europe and seem even now too great for its common intelligence. She saw the myriad gods beyond man, God beyond the gods, and beyond God, his own ineffable eternity. She saw that there were ranges of life beyond our life, ranges of mind beyond our present mind, and above these she saw the splendor of the spirit. Then, with that calm audacity of her intuition, which knew a fear or littleness and sharp and shrank from no act, whether of spiritual or intellectual, ethical or vital courage, she declared that there was none of these things which man could not attain if he trained his will and knowledge. He could conquer these ranges of mind, become the spirit, become a good, become one with God, become the ineffable Brahma, and with the logical practicality and sense of science and organized method which distinguished her mentality, she set forth immediately to find out the way. Hence, from long ages of this insight and practice, they were ingrained in her spirituality, her powerful psychic tendency, her great yearning to grapple with the infinite and possess it, her incredible religious sense, her idealism, her yoga, the constant turn of her art and her philosophy.
India is the country in which the psychic law can and must reign, and the time has come for that. Here besides, this is the only salvation possible for the country whose consciousness has unfortunately been falsified by the influence and dominance of a foreign country, but which, in spite of everything, is in possession of a unique spiritual heritage. O India, land of light and spiritual knowledge, wake up to your true mission in the world, show the way to union and harmony.
if the nations or the governments who are blindly the instruments of the divine forces were perfectly pure and divine in their processes and forms of action, as well as in the inspiration they receive so ignorantly, they would be invincible, because the divine forces themselves are invincible. It is in the mixture, in the outward expression, that gives to the asura the right to defeat them.
The recovery of the old spiritual knowledge and experience, tasks for India. The recovery of the old spiritual knowledge and the experience in all its splendor, depth and fullness is its first, most essential work. The flowing of the spirituality into new forms of philosophy, literature, art, science and critical knowledge is the second. An original dealing with the modern problem in the light of Indian spirit and the endeavor to formulate a greater synthesis of spiritualized society is the third and most difficult. Its success on these three lines will be the measure of its help to the future humanity.
Jagad শ্রেষ্ঠ ভারত জাতি নিবিড় তিমিরে আচ্ছন্ন ছিল। তুমি মাত্র গগন প্রান্তে অল্পে অল্পে উদয় হইতেছ। তোমার স্বর্গীয় শরীরে তিমির বিনাশী আভায় উষার প্রকাশ হইল। আলোক বিস্তার কর মাত্র, তিমির বিনাশ কর। মাতা দুর্গে শ্যামলা সর্বসৌন্দর্য অলঙ্কৃতা, জ্ঞান প্রেম শক্তির আধার বঙ্গভূমি তোমার বিভূতি। এতদিন শক্তি সংহরণে আত্মগোপন করিতেছিল। আগত যুগ আগত দিন ভারতের ভাস বন্ধে লইয়া বঙ্গ জননী উঠিতেছে। এসো মাত্র প্রকাশ হও। মাতা দুর্গে তোমার সন্তান আমরা, তোমার প্রসাদে তোমার প্রভাবে মহৎ কার্যে মহৎ ভাবে উপযুক্ত হই। বিনাশ কর ক্ষুদ্রতা, বিনাশ কর স্বার্থ, বিনাশ কর ভয়। মাতা দুর্গে কালী রূপিণী মৃমুণ্ড মালিনী দিগম্বরী কৃপাণকালী দেবী অসুর বিনাশিনী, ক্রূর নিনাদে অন্তঃস্থূলকে বিনাশ করো। একটিও যেন আমাদের ভিতরে জীবিত না থাকে। বিমল নির্মল যেন হই, এই প্রার্থনা মাত্র প্রকাশ হও। মাতা দুর্গে স্বার্থে ভয়ে ক্ষুদ্রাশয়তার নিয়মান ভারত আমাদের মহৎ করো, মহৎ প্রয়াসী করো, উদার চেতা করো, সত্য সংকল্প করো। আর অল্পাসী নিশ্চেষ্ট অলস ভয়ভীত যেন না হই। মাতা দুর্গে যোগ শক্তি বিস্তার করো। তোমার প্রিয় আর্য সন্তান লুপ্ত শিক্ষা, চরিত্র, মেধা শক্তি, ভক্তি শ্রদ্ধা, তপস্যা, ব্রহ্মচর্য, সত্য জ্ঞান আমাদের মধ্যে বিকাশ করিয়া জগৎকে বিতরণ করো। মানব সহায়ে দুর্গতি নাশিনী জগদম্বে প্রকাশ হও। মাতা দুর্গে অন্তঃস্থলী কুসংহার করিয়া বাহিরের বাধা বিঘ্ন নির্মূল করো। বলশালী পরাক্রমী উন্নত চেতা জাতি ভারতের পবিত্র কাননে পূর্বর ক্ষেত্রে গগন সহচর পর্বত তলে উত্তরসূরিয়া নদী তীরে একতার প্রেমে সত্যে শক্তিতে শিল্পে সাহিত্যে বিক্রমে জ্ঞানে শ্রেষ্ঠ হইয়া নিবাস করুক। মাতৃচরণে এই প্রার্থনা প্রকাশ হও। মাতা দুর্গে আমাদের শরীরে যোগ বলে প্রবেশ করো। যন্ত্র তব, অশুভ বিনাশী তরবারি তব, অজ্ঞান বিনাশী প্রদীপ তব আমরা হইব। বঙ্গীয় যুবকগণের এই বাসনা পূর্ণ করো। যন্ত্রী হইয়া যন্ত্র চালাও, অশুভ হন্ত্রী হইয়া তরবারি ঘুরাও। জ্ঞান দীপ্তি প্রকাশী হইয়া প্রদীপ ধরো। প্রকাশ হও। মাতা দুর্গে তোমাকে পাইলে আর বিসর্জন করিব না। শ্রদ্ধা ভক্তি প্রেমের জোরে বাঁধিয়া রাখিব। এসো মাতা আমাদের মনে প্রাণে শরীরে প্রকাশ হও। বীর মার্গ প্রদর্শিনী এসো, আর বিসর্জন করিব না। আমাদের অখিল জীবন অনবচ্ছিন্ন দুর্গা পূজা, আমাদের সর্বকার্য অবিরত পবিত্র প্রেমময় শক্তিময় মাতৃ সেবাব্রত হোক। এই প্রার্থনা মাতা পুরো বঙ্গদেশে প্রকাশ হোক।
the supramental change in the thing. Four great aspects of the mother, four of her there are other great personalities. And she deals directly as the supramental Shakti with supramental nature. If you follow your mind, it will not recognize the mother, even when she is manifest before you. Follow your soul and not your mind. Your soul that answers to the truth, not your mind that leaps at appearances. Trust the divine power and she will free the godlike elements in you and shape all into an expression of divine nature. The supramental change in the thing decreed and inevitable in the evolution of the earth consciousness. For its upward ascent is not ended, and mind is not its last summit, but that the change may arrive, take form, and endure, there is needed the call from below, with a will to recognize and not deny the light when it comes, and there is needed the sanction of the Supreme from above. The power that mediates between the sanction and the call is the presence and power of the Divine Mother. The Mother's power, and not any human endeavor and tapasya, can alone rend the lid and tear the covering and shape the vessel and bring down into this world of purity and falsehood and death and suffering truth and light and life divine and the immortal Sananda. Therefore,
we all rise for Vande Mataram.
Shubhra Jyosa Pulakita Yamini
Come